Everyone admired her skills, but nobody wondered why her clients always rushed back complaining of problems. Then one observant woman started paying close attention, and what she found left the whole community stunned. Before Amaka launched her beauty shop, she trained under a well-known hairdresser called Mama Blessing in Enugu. She spent 5 years there, but learned very little because Mama Blessing never allowed her near actual clients. Amaka only swept floors, washed hair, and bought items from the market. She desperately wanted proper training, but whenever she attempted to observe closely or try her hand at styling, Mama Blessing would yell, "You're nowhere near ready. Give you a chance and you'll ruin somebody's head completely." Meanwhile, other trainees who joined after her were already handling clients and earning weekend money. They purchased fashionable outfits and smartphones. Amaka couldn't afford such things. Her mother sold roasted plantain beside the main road. Her younger sister frequently fell ill and required medication. Some nights they went to bed hungry. Still, Amaka refused to complain because she believed eventually she would become a skilled hairdresser and support her family properly. Then during the rainy months, Mama Blessing suddenly became ill and shut down the shop for 3 months. She paid none of the apprentices and instructed them to wait until she recovered. Those 3 months proved incredibly difficult for Amaka. She remained at home without income, without hope, without direction. She tried assisting her mother at the plantain stand, but the earnings were insufficient. One evening, she sat outside their house thinking about everything. Tears streamed down her face silently. She questioned whether she had thrown away her time. She questioned whether Mama Blessing ever intended to properly certify her. A neighbor who understood her situation advised her, "If you keep waiting for that woman to release you officially, you might wait forever. If you truly know this work, begin somewhere small. Nobody ever starts at the top." That night, Amaka barely slept. She kept thinking constantly. The following week, she gathered the little money she had saved over the years and rented a tiny wooden structure along a busy street. She cleaned it thoroughly, positioned one small mirror, a plastic seat, and a low stool. She borrowed a hairdryer from an acquaintance and purchased basic supplies. Nothing looked perfect, but it belonged to her. She launched her salon with a handwritten sign outside that read, "Amaka's Beauty Spot, quality and affordable." The journey ahead looked challenging, but she promised herself, "I'll do whatever it takes to succeed here." She had no idea that this promise would eventually push her toward choices she never imagined making. When Amaka opened her salon, she assumed that once she styled people's hair beautifully, they would naturally keep returning. That's how she believed businesses flourished. She arrived early every morning, cleaned the space, wiped the mirror, and waited hopefully. During her opening week, several people came. Some requested cornrows, some wanted simple extensions, and some needed their old braids removed. They were mostly neighbors and church sisters who wanted to encourage her new venture. She treated everyone gently and patiently. She never rushed or grumbled. She braided with the same care she used to dream about when she was still training. When each client stood before the mirror and saw how neat and perfectly aligned their hair appeared, they smiled with satisfaction. One woman said, "Amaka, your hands are truly gentle. You're talented. I'll definitely return." Another commented, "This looks absolutely beautiful. Let me take a photograph." Someone even promised to bring her cousin the next weekend. Those comments made Amaka's heart soar. She believed she was finally stepping into her destiny. However, for weeks passed and none of them came back. She waited daily, sometimes from sunrise until darkness. But no previous customer walked through her door. Initially, she assumed perhaps they were occupied or planning to return once their hair became messy. She maintained faith. However, she began noticing them everywhere around town. In church, at the market junction, at roadside stalls, in the motor park. Whenever she greeted them, they responded cheerfully, "My hair still looks absolutely fresh. I'm still enjoying how it looks. Oh, it hasn't gotten rough at all. You performed excellent work." Some even added proudly, "It's been almost 6 weeks and I haven't needed to change it yet." They intended it as praise, but to Amaka, it was becoming a serious concern. People appreciated her work so deeply that they didn't need to return quickly. Some visited only once monthly. Some came after 4 full weeks or even longer. Her hands were skilled, but her business wasn't expanding. Soon, reality started crushing her spirit. Her shop rent was accumulating. She needed to purchase products again. Transportation and food expenses were rising. Her mother required support. Her sister was still frequently sick. She had no additional income, no business partner, no financial backer. She attempted lowering her prices, but that only attracted people who braided once and vanished for several weeks. She tried offering complimentary hair washing for returning clients, but nobody returned quickly enough to benefit from it. One rainy evening, she sat alone inside her salon, her head resting on the counter. She looked around the small space she created with her final savings, and genuine fear entered her heart for the first time. She asked herself, can skill alone sustain me? What if this shop closes just like Mama Blessings? What if all my training years became worthless? How will my family survive? That's when she remembered something Auntie Chioma once mentioned to her at the market months earlier when she cried about her struggles. Returning clients are the foundation of survival. She repeated it quietly to herself that night. Returning clients. Returning clients. She lay awake on her mat, staring upward, thinking intensely about it. She didn't sleep until dawn. By the following week, her situation deteriorated further. Bills mounted. Customers decreased. New ones didn't appear frequently. She understood she needed to try something different, something that would make customers return faster. But she didn't know what that would be yet. All she knew was that she couldn't continue this way. And that's how the first dangerous thought entered her mind, not as something evil, but as survival. After many silent days in the salon, Amaka started observing how other hairdressers in the neighborhood operated their businesses. She noticed something she never considered before. Some salons stayed constantly busy, even when their work wasn't as neat as hers. Some customers returned to the same stylist every week or two, regardless of how painful, rough, or tight the braiding was. Some even complained loudly, but still came back. That made her wonder, perhaps returning isn't always about perfection. One afternoon, while purchasing hair supplies in a local beauty store, she overheard 2 stylists chatting. My clients always rush back quickly, one boasted. That's because your braids never last properly, the other replied, laughing. Amaka walked out quietly, but those words remained with her. That night, she sat with her mother in their small living room. Her mother didn't realize anything was troubling her. She only said, Amaka, don't lose hope. God will provide for you. Amaka nodded, but her mind kept questioning, what will make customers return? What will make the hair deteriorate quickly? What will make the scalp demand a redo? Then she remembered something. During her time with Mama Blessing, she once witnessed Mama Blessing discard a half-used container of chemical straightener and complain, "This formula is extremely harsh. If I apply it incorrectly, it will cause severe itching on the scalp." That memory sparked a small idea in Amaka's mind. She didn't rush into the idea immediately. She spent days contemplating, pacing around her small shop, checking her nearly empty product shelf, staring at her rent reminder notice. After 2 more quiet days and only 1 paying customer, the fear returned stronger. If I don't act now, this salon will collapse. She went to the market and purchased a small container of harsh chemical straightener, not because she wanted to damage hair, but because she believed if customers felt uncomfortable sooner, they would return faster for relief or redoing. She sat alone in her shop after closing hours, placed the straightener beside her normal hair pomade, and stared at both containers for a long time. Part of her said, "This is wrong. Don't proceed." Another part responded, "You're not really harming them. They'll just come back faster. You're simply trying to survive." She mixed a very tiny portion of straightener into her regular pomade, stirred it thoroughly, and transferred it into an unlabeled small plastic jar so nobody would ask questions. Her heart raced as she hid it inside her drawer. The next morning, her first customer came for box braids. When she completed the style, she rubbed a small amount of the new mixture on the scalp and edges. She didn't explain anything. She didn't announce it. She simply said her usual statement, "This will make it last longer and shine beautifully." She did the same for the next 3 customers that week. Initially, nothing occurred. But 4 days later, she heard a familiar voice calling her name from outside. "Sister Amaka, please assist me. My scalp is itching terribly." Then another came that same evening. Then another the following day. They didn't insult her. They didn't suspect her. They simply pleaded for help. They all paid. She acted gentle and concerned. She told them, "It happens sometimes. Some scalps are more sensitive. Next time, we'll try a different approach." Within 4 weeks, her salon transformed from nearly empty to constantly busy. What she wanted had begun working, but she didn't realize she had opened a door she wasn't strong enough to close. Within a short period, Amaka's salon became the busiest in her neighborhood. Women no longer kept their hair for 3 or 4 weeks. By the 4th or 5th day, they were already returning to her shop, scratching continuously and begging for assistance. Some came very early in the morning. Some rushed in during lunch breaks from their jobs. Some came looking troubled, confused, or nearly crying. Amaka always welcomed them with a composed expression, even though she already knew why they came. "Don't worry," she would say. "Sit down. I'll handle it." They paid again, sometimes even more than previously. Soon, every week felt like month-end financially. Her pocket stayed full. Her shelves were always stocked. She upgraded her shop gradually, a new standing fan, a larger wall mirror, a ring light for photographs, branded plastic bags for extensions, a new signboard outside. People around even started calling her the caring stylist, because she never turned away her customers regardless of the hour. And because so many customers were returning frequently, she developed another money-making idea: special itching treatment hair products. She purchased empty containers, designed stickers with her salon name, and filled them with ordinary hair oil mixed with menthol and petroleum jelly. It provided temporary relief, and customers believed it was genuinely working. Soon she was profiting from braiding, rebraiding, and hair treatment sales. Her income tripled. She sent money home more regularly. Her mother prayed for her loudly. Everything appeared like success until she grew comfortable, then confident, then greedy. Since the initial straightener mixture brought many customers back, Amaka believed more mixture would produce even faster results. She started experimenting. A little hair straightener with pomade, then slightly more, then small portions of other chemical products meant only for hair strands, not scalp. She convinced herself she was still in control. She convinced herself nothing serious would happen. She convinced herself it was still business strategy, not harm. But she was no longer using tiny amounts. She was using routine quantities, convinced that nothing would go wrong. At first, the results came faster. Some customers returned after 3 days, scratching as if insects were crawling on their scalp. They didn't suspect her. They believed it was heat, weather, sweat, or dandruff. They trusted her hands, not knowing those hands had changed. One afternoon, a lady returned crying quietly. "My scalp isn't only itching, it's truly painful. Please examine it for me." When Amaka loosened part of the braids, she noticed a small section of hair missing. Her heart jumped, but she concealed her reaction. "It's nothing serious," she said. "Perhaps you scratched too aggressively." The lady nodded innocently and requested new braids. That same week, another customer returned with small red patches on her scalp. Then another came saying she discovered tiny pieces of broken hair on her pillow. Still nobody suspected her. They kept returning. They kept paying. They kept trusting. Amaka should have stopped. But money feels sweeter when it comes easily. And stopping felt like starting from zero again. What she didn't know was that someone had started observing quietly, and that silence was more dangerous than any complaint. Among the many women who visited Amaka's salon, there was one quiet lady named Blessing. She wasn't loud, she didn't gossip, and she didn't enjoy staying long in crowded places. She only came because someone recommended Amaka. She braided her hair and left happily, praising Amaka like others once did. But 4 days later, Blessing returned with serious discomfort. She wasn't shouting or crying like others. She was calm and observant. She sat down and spoke softly. "My scalp is reacting badly. Please examine it for me." As Amaka touched her scalp, Blessing watched her hands, her movements, and her eyes. Something didn't feel normal to her. Each time customers complained, Amaka appeared too relaxed, too prepared, too expectant, like she already knew what they came for. But Blessing didn't say anything. She simply paid and left. 3 days later, Blessing visited her friend Patience and explained her experience. To her surprise, Patience said, "The exact thing happened to me when I braided there 2 weeks ago." That's when Blessing became certain it wasn't random. She didn't report it. She didn't make noise. She didn't confront her. She only said, "Let's return to her shop together, but I want to watch her very carefully this time." Patience agreed. They went to the salon together and pretended everything was normal. Patience acted like a brand new customer and requested a new braid style. Blessing sat quietly as if she was just keeping her friend company. Amaka welcomed them warmly, not suspecting anything. While braiding, she talked and laughed as usual, but Blessing never took her eyes off her. She watched how Amaka stepped aside at the end of the braiding, opened a small drawer, and removed an unlabeled container, not like the regular products on her shelf. But Blessing still didn't speak. She waited. When Amaka finished the hair, she walked to her small drawer again, opened it carefully, brought out another small white container, and was about to apply the content directly to Patience's scalp without any explanation. That was the moment Blessing stood up. "Stop. What's inside that cream?" The salon went silent. Amaka froze. Her hand trembled. She forced a nervous smile. "It's just ordinary hair cream." Blessing stepped closer. "Then why isn't it labeled like other products? And why don't you apply it on your own hair?" Patience touched her scalp immediately. "So this is what you used on me the first time?" 3 other customers who were waiting outside heard the argument and rushed inside. "What's happening? What's inside that cream?" The pressure increased. There was no door to escape through. No lie sounded convincing enough. Someone shouted from outside, "Open it and smell it. Let us see." Another said, "If it's harmless, use it on yourself first." Amaka's breathing changed. Her palms became sweaty. She held the container tightly against her chest like a secret she didn't want to lose. Finally, she broke. Tears gathered in her eyes. "I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I didn't mean to harm anybody." The whole salon erupted. Some screamed. Some insulted. Some cried out of shock. Some rushed to touch their hair, terrified. Someone outside shouted, "Call the police station." In less than 20 minutes, a small crowd formed around the salon. The noise attracted neighbors, passers-by, and even shop owners nearby. Within a short time, 3 officers arrived and took Amaka away. Her salon, once filled with praise, noise, and movement, became silent. At the police station, Amaka sat on a plastic chair with swollen eyes and shaking hands. She didn't argue, didn't shout, and didn't try to defend herself. She only whispered softly, "I'm sorry. I didn't want things to end like this." The officer on duty asked her to explain what happened from the beginning. Amaka took a deep breath and told her complete story, from how she struggled under Mama Blessing to how customers didn't return to how bills piled up and how she remembered Auntie Chioma's statement about returning clients. She didn't hide anything. The officer listened and wrote silently. When she finished, the officer looked at her and said, "You wanted progress, but your method was completely wrong. In business, shortcuts always have consequences." Amaka lowered her head. Tears dropped on her palms. Later that evening, her mother arrived at the station crying and holding her wrapper tightly. "Amaka, why? You didn't tell me you were suffering like this. We would have found another way." Amaka cried even harder, wishing she could go back and stop herself before it started. After hours of pleading, the officers allowed her to stay in a holding room instead of the main cell for the night, pending settlement with victims. Community elders also promised to handle the case if victims agreed. But the biggest shock came the next day when Auntie Chioma walked into the station. She looked older than Amaka remembered, but her voice was still the same. "Amaka, what happened?" she asked calmly. Amaka stood up with shaking legs and rushed to her. "You told me returning customers are the secret. I was only trying to survive. I didn't want my salon to die." Chioma stared at her for a long, painful moment. Then she said, "Amaka, when I said returning customers, I meant build relationships and trust. Treat people well. Be honest and they will return naturally. I never meant hurting them to force them back." Amaka froze. Those words hit harder than any insult. She felt like her chest was collapsing from shame. She realized she had followed the sentence but not the meaning. Chioma added, "Yes, competition is tough. Yes, business is hard. But if success destroys others, it will eventually destroy you too." More tears rolled down Amaka's face as she whispered, "I'm sorry. I didn't think it would turn out like this." Chioma held her hand gently, but her eyes carried disappointment. "You have talent, Amaka, but talent without patience becomes poison." Those words stayed in Amaka's heart like a burn mark. With apologies, agreement for treatment support, and community intervention, the victims finally agreed to settle outside of court. After paperwork, Amaka was released, but her reputation was shattered. Her salon keys were returned to her, but that salon was no longer the same. The day she returned home, she removed the salon signboard herself and sat on the dusty floor inside, staring at the empty chair and mirror. She felt like she had failed her dream, her family, and everyone who trusted her. For almost 2 weeks, she didn't open the salon. She stayed quiet, cried, prayed, and thought about her life. One morning, she swept the shop, cleaned the chairs, threw away all containers without labels, and bought fresh products. She wrote a new small note and placed it inside her drawer. "No shortcuts again. If it takes time, I will still wait." After 3 more days, she opened her shop again quietly. Some people passed without entering. Some stared and whispered. Some shook their heads and walked away. But one woman finally stepped inside. She looked around and said gently, "I believe everybody deserves another chance. Can you make my hair?" Amaka's eyes became wet. She nodded slowly and started braiding, clean, honest, careful, without adding anything extra. By the end of the month, a few of her old customers returned. Not many, not fast, but the ones who returned trusted her again, and that was enough to start rebuilding. Because this time, she told herself, slow success is better than fast regret. Before we continue, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments below, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button now. You don't want to miss what's coming next. I truly appreciate every single one of you. Important lesson: when your talent is genuine, patience will reward you in the right way. Real success is built on honesty, not tricks or shortcuts. If your growth comes from harming others, it may look like progress at first, but it will eventually destroy everything you worked for. Protect your name, do good work, and allow your blessings to grow naturally. Slow success with peace is better than fast success with regret. Thank you so much to all my amazing subscribers, especially my returning viewers. I truly appreciate your love, support, and consistency. Your likes, comments, shares, and encouragement keep this channel moving forward, and I'm grateful for every single one of you. If you're new here and haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button, turn on post notifications, and join this beautiful family. You don't want to miss the next story. Love you all. Let's keep growing together, besties.